thank you so much for coming out. There's a mini hurricane outside, so you're safe in here. You'd rather be in here than out there. Thank you so much again for coming. We truly appreciate it. Um, we have a couple different things going on, so I wasn't going to start, but I'm going to start. My name is Makara Bell. I'm a licensed funeral director and insurance agent here at Elijah Bell's Funeral Services. And we decided to do this conference, which we normally go into churches and do the conference because our community needs it a lot. Because we see that when families come to us and sometimes they're not prepared, who plans for deaths? Nobody, right? I know I don't want to plan for death. I'm in this industry, but I don't really want to plan for my own funeral. But I know that I have children, and I know that if something were to happen to their parents and we don't have things together, they will be lost. They'll be confused, and it would be chaos. Because I have 3 children, and the way they fight right now, and the way they think that they know what their mom wants, in reality, they probably don't, because we never take the time and speak about it. How many of you have pre-planned funeral services in here? Oh, 1. You see? Well, great job. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. How many of you pre-planned if you wanted to be buried, your burial spot? 1. Okay, you too. Perfect. Okay, so this is why this conference is needed. We don't understand the cost and the magnitude and the pressure that comes to play once someone passes away. When someone passes away, there's a range of different emotions that's going on. So what that means is that when you come to see us, the best funeral home in town, you're going to be confused. You're going to say, give me everything. Or you're going to say, see, I don't know what to do. Just cremate. Just do whatever. Because we're not properly prepared. So what we want to do now is I'm going to go through a couple things on why it's important to pre-plan and guide you. We have a list of people, great people in the industry that's going to share some knowledge with you, and at the end we'll be able to open it up for questions and answers, okay? All right, so the first part, what we do is for pre-planning here, we pre-plan. It's not the same as life insurance, but it's basically paying for your services. Oh, before I start, did you guys like the bag that I created? Yes. Okay, I spent some money for this stuff in here, so you guys better use it. So you have a notepad that you can take notes with as well, and everything that I'm going over, you have it here in your book, so you can take a look. So what we do here is we pre-plan services, so you will have the opportunity to come in, speak to one of our directors, plan out exactly what you want in your service. The flowers, the color casket, if you want a viewing, if you don't want to be viewed, if you want a simple cremation, if you want a horse and carriage service, anything that you want, you would pre-plan in your service. You would pre-plan with us, and we would create a file for you. You can even pre-plan your obituary. You can even have it written out. You can even send me a picture. I have about 5 clients that have their obituaries written out with the picture and with the outfit. They asked me, can they bring their outfit? I said, no, you just hold on to it until you're ready, because we don't want to pile up back there. But they are very detailed, and that is the right thing to do, because when they have children that comes into us, the pre-planned family versus the unplanned family, it's a world of difference. You have a pre-planned family that comes in and says, hey, mom, grandma, aunt, uncle, they did this, and here. All we need to do is set a time and a date for the service, compared to another family, which is not their fault. They just didn't know, and they're all over the place. So they have to find out. We don't really know what type of service mom wants. Some kids are saying mom wanted to be cremated, and some kids are saying mom wanted to be buried. And you know what happens? We have to stop. If there's 2 or more children that aren't on the same page, we have to stop in our tracks. The funeral home becomes in the middle, and we can't do anything. And sometimes we have to wait till a court order for the court to decide. We did have a case where a family, he remarried, and the family, the children, his biological children, said that he wanted to be buried. His wife, his new wife, said that he wanted to be cremated. And even though she is the legal next of kin, do you know we had to stop and wait about 2 months before the judge finally ordered, based on his wife, the next of kin. But all of that, if he would have pre-planned, if he would have had everything written out, we wouldn't have to go back and forth with it. So that's one of the scenarios that makes it very important. Like I said, we offer a couple type of funding. So we offer insurance funded policies where any money that you pay into us, we will put it in a trust, an insurance funded trust. So say if we ever go out of business or if you ever decide to move, your money is secured. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. Your money is secured and you can take it anywhere. You go to Jamaica, we can even fund it in Jamaica. You go to Alabama, anywhere you go, your money is secured. Okay, so it controls the cost. Once you pre-plan, you get to control the cost, because today's price is not going to be tomorrow's price. Today's price is not going to be tomorrow's price. Perfect example. I was calling, looking for cemetery locations for an individual, and the cemetery at Forest Lawn South, which is, the pyramid by 595. He's like, "You ready for it?" I'm like, "You sitting down?" I'm like, "Are you kidding?" $22,000 for the ground. 22,000, Forest Lawn South. And he's like, he 595 that one. Right. And that's what happens. So that one is extreme, but the least expensive, if you're not going to a city cemetery, you're looking about 8,000. If it's not a city cemetery, $8,000 for the plot and the opening and closing, and not including the headstone. So not only do you want to make sure you pre-plan with us, but if you are considering to be buried, you need to get the cemetery of choice that you want and make sure you can do a down payment and start paying monthly, because today's price is not tomorrow's price, and cemetery prices go up every 6 months, okay? And not only do they go up, say you had a loved one at, let's say, Lauderdale Memorial Park. You buried your loved one there, and you said, "Hey, I want to be buried next to my loved one." Well, that's great, but if you pass away 20, 30, 40, 50 years, one, the space cannot be available, or two, there's going to be priced out. So you want to make sure that you buy it right now, you pay monthly payments, and monthly payments sometimes could be $50 to $100. It's not that bad, but it secures your spot, okay? Be remembered how you want to be. I see this all the time. People come in and try to choose how you would want to be remembered. That's not fair to you. They're going to come in and they say, "Well, she loved red lipstick, we're going to put red lipstick." But you hate red lipstick. You don't want red lipstick. But they're going to put red lipstick on you. She wanted to be cremated. A lot of times, if you don't empower your family members with your decisions, what you want, they have to do what's best for them at the time. And you can't really fault them because they're not equipped. They're not prepared. So why not let's prepare so we don't have to leave the burden. That goes to my next one, ease the burden. Self-explanatory. You ease the burden off your loved ones. If you care about them, this is important. I know we don't want to talk about death, but this is something that you must do. You must have the talk of a lifetime with your loved ones, because it makes a world of difference. If you just get your family together and talk about what your needs are. Keep the peace. Oh boy, you'd be surprised. We have a lot of fights that happen here. Yeah. Sometimes they try to keep it within the family, but it spills out, because emotions are high. Emotions are very high, and unfortunately, grief I always say weddings and funerals brings out the best and worst of people, and that is the absolute truth. So when someone passes away, and if they have regret or if they, can't deal with it, the grief turns into rage. Okay, so this is again, you should keep the peace by doing this. We have different payment plans. You can do a single payment. You can do a monthly payment option. You can do um, away from home rider. So if you know that you travel a lot, there's a one-time rider fee that you can pay, and then it will fly you back into town, and you can have the services here as well. Okay. Some simple things that you can write down is your thoughts. Do you want to be buried or do you want to be cremated? Um, what type of color caskets do you want to choose from? We have thousands of caskets, but you would start, hey, what's your favorite color? Things of that nature. Um, Death certificate information. You want to make sure that what we need when we process a death certificate, in your book, in your pre-planning guide, there is um, a personal history in the first page. You should fill this out, okay? Because a lot of things that we need and will need will be in this. This is a great tool. So would you fill it out as the best as you can, and that way, once you turn it over to the person that you trust, they're equipped, and then we can have all the questions answered that we need. I'm gonna not go too far because I'll let everybody speak. And at the end, if you guys have any specific questions for me, we'll dive deeper into that. Okay? So our next guest is going to be my friend. We went to high school together. His name is Jay Porter, and he is with HealthGuard Pro, and he does health insurance and an array of other things that he's going to tell you about. Okay? Give it up for him. Woo! You remember? You're welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. As Mrs. Bell said, I'm Jay Porter of HealthGuard Pro. I'm a licensed health insurance agent, broker, licensed in over 35 states. I offer an array of different services in which I'd like to assist you all with if you are on the market for protecting yourselves. So while sitting in the back, understand this is more of a conversation and information event for you guys. I was just putting a couple of notes down so I can kind of go through the process with you all. So first thing I want to ask you, do you guys understand how health insurance actually works? For the most part, everyone understand how that works? Good. I talk to people all the time, and you'd be surprised of how many people don't understand how health insurance works and how many people get ACA Marketplace, which is Obamacare, Medicaid, Medicare versus private insurance, confused, as well bringing in what's called a limited benefit insurance, which, by the way, limited benefit insurance, if any of you happen to be on a limited benefit plan, that is not real health insurance. The last thing that we would want to happen for you is you have an emergency, go into an emergency room, go into an urgent care, and find out that that coverage isn't going to cover anything. You're basically throwing money away with the limited benefit option, okay? Let's see here. Everyone said they understand how insurance works. Everybody understand how the deductibles work on your policies. And don't be shy if you don't understand, because I'm happy to break it down. Everyone get that? Okay, so in regards to a deductible, right, if you're looking at ACA Marketplace, first thing you want to understand what that is price-based coverage. So if you filed your taxes, whatever you made that year is how you're going to be paying for your insurance. So you can say my income was zero in 2023, but if you filed taxes and the taxes said that your income was $50,000 and you have a household of one individual, you're going to be price-based on that amount that was made for the year. So the deductible for a single household individual, let's say at 35 years old, your deductible may range anywhere from $6,500 to $9,500. Now, before you can go in to see a doctor on one of the ACA Marketplace options, you're going to have to pay towards that deductible before you can be seen, right? So some people want low deductibles so they don't have to come out of pocket for those visits. Some people want low copay. A copay is what you have to pay just to go see your doctor or your specialist, right? So if you have a copay of $40 or $50, you're paying that just to be seen, not for any other reason, right? And there are policies that are available to you guys where you don't have to have a copay or any out-of-pocket expense, which I provide those options as well. So depending on what a person is looking for, depending on what you actually need, if you're in a situation where financially you just can't afford to kick out hundreds of dollars a month for coverage, and you're like the type of person that's like, well, I never get sick. I barely go to the doctor unless I'm feeling, under the weather, and I might have a natural remedy to get myself together. Most of us from island descent have those type of remedies already, and but truthfully, it's stuff that will take care of us and prepare us better than what we can go get off of the counter or through a prescription. Because during COVID, while people were laughing, some of us were collecting herbs and doing what we had to do at home and getting ourselves through. So I'm saying that to say there are still options available for you. If you want to go forward with the medicine and get the prescription medication, can still assist. But if you're a person that does not get sick, does not feel you need to go in and check in with a doctor, you don't have any pre-existing conditions, we also offer catastrophic coverage, right? Because that's worst case scenario. If you're, true story, I just enrolled a client a couple of months ago. She was perfectly healthy, perfectly fine. Set her up with a policy. She texted me last week, and she just recently been diagnosed with cancer. Now, very early in the stage, though, right? Very early. It's not a stage 4 or anything like that, but that's still a scary phone call or a scary situation to be. Now, because she's over the age of 45, her payout is $96,000 that she gets. And I always tell my clients, that's not money that I want for you to get, because if you're getting that payment, that means that something is wrong, that something has happened. However, you've just been diagnosed with a critical illness, or you just had a heart attack or a stroke. You're out of work, you're out of commission for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, depending on your situation. What doesn't stop? Your bills don't stop, right? If you have a family and children, your children still have to eat, right? You still have to pay the car note, you still have to take care of that stuff. So that $96,000 that she's now going to receive, she can actually take that money, use a portion of it to pay her deductible, which this is on the private health side that I'm talking about now. The deductible there is only $3,000, no matter what. That's not price-based. That's actually based on your history, your medical history. So if you're a person that does not have pre-existing conditions such as high blood pressure with 3 medications or more, high cholesterol, diabetes, or anything like that, can get you on a policy with a low deductible as well, including that supplement, so that if something happens in the event, you're now provided that allotted amount of money. You can take care of your deductible with that, and then maintain your day-to-day versus worrying about how you're going to pay your bills and keep everything else afloat while you're trying to recover, right? Does that make sense? Good stuff. Yes, yes. Um, yes, so there are 2 different avenues, right? ACA Marketplace, that's a guaranteed issue. Doesn't matter your condition, you will get the coverage, right? But the difference with that is sometimes pricing for people based on what you make annually. In regards to the private coverage, that is medically underwritten. So if I'm speaking to you and you're saying, hey, Jay, I'm 5'3", 165 pounds. I have high blood pressure, but I'm on 1 low-dose medication. There's been no change in my medication for the past 5 years. Perfect. I can get you on a policy. Now, if you're saying, hey, Jay, I have high blood pressure, low dose, but I also had cancer 3 years ago, then I have to reroute how we're going to get you the protection. I can still do it, but there's going to be a change in the direction that we're going for you. And then there's another policy that we offer. Yeah. Another question? Sorry. Yes, sir.
Is there a time limit, 30 days when this insurance kick in? Because you said the lady got sick right after she...
Yeah, so, okay, so because her policy was a medically underwritten policy. So the underwriters, which the insurance company, her policy was actually issued through United Healthcare. They're not playing any games, and there is not a single stone that they have not, looked up underneath to make sure you are a healthy person before giving you the yes and approval. So she was completely looked into. They looked at the last 10 years of her medical records before getting back to me to say, yes, she is approved. Now, the 30-day thing that applies to everybody is if you sign up for a policy, that's a free look period, right? So let's say I enroll you on a policy and you go in to try and use it and it doesn't work to your liking. You can call back and say, hey, I tried to use this and my doctor actually doesn't accept this. Can I cancel this? Yes, you can cancel it, and you also will be refunded if you've already been charged for the month. So if you sign up with a policy today and tomorrow something happens that wasn't already a pre-existing situation, you will be covered. So that we all know insurance companies don't necessarily like to pay out, but it's the truth, especially home insurance. My mother-in-law's house was just flooded a couple of weeks ago, and they gave her $6,000. I'm like, what is she gonna do with this? The whole house was destroyed. But in this case, with your health, because they're looking into your medical history and records, they've already approved you. That phone call, there are two different phone calls. There's a phone call with myself. I always like to tell my clients, this is like attorney-client privilege. I'm the person that you want to be transparent with, right? When you get on the phone with the underwriters, that call is recorded. If you deviate from anything, if you ask them a question, if you say, well, I did, have a car accident and had to get on some pain medication a couple of weeks ago, they're stopping the call, and now you're flagged forever. Another note to you all as well. I know this is not a joke. It may sound funny. I know that the whole Ozempic thing is a trend right now because people want to slim up and lose weight, right? What you need to understand is any pre-existing medication that you get on your medical records is there forever. So if you're not a diabetic and you went into a doctor and you got a prescription for Ozempic or Mounjaro or any of these medications, that is on your medical record forever. And when you do try and move forward to get yourself on a policy that's going to protect you, you may be denied because of that. So if you do it off the record. Also, if you pay cash for any medical procedure, that does not go to your medical record either, because you're paying it cash. You swipe a debit or credit card, that is being listed. Yes, that's being listed. So if you do any injections, any steroid shots or anything like that for back pain or sciatic pain, anything like that, all of that stuff is being listed on your record. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. If you go back to the case with the payout, the catastrophic insurance, that is in addition to the medical coverage that?
It's already built in to the policy. So I like to come from a place of common sense when I'm speaking with anybody on any term, any level. So common sense is, okay, we're going to take this health policy. I am up in age. There is a likelihood that something might happen, just given the way that the world is. There's a small chance that something might happen. In the event something like that happens, as Makara mentioned, if you have a family and children, the last thing you want to do is leave a burden on your family. So if something were to happen and you are the breadwinner, right, you bring in the money for the home to take care of the household, the insurance group is going to pay you a lump sum of money. Now, you can remove that, right? You can remove that payout that's issued. But if you remove that, that means you are now responsible for your $3,000 deductible. They're still going to cover whatever you need covered. However, recover, wish you the best, and whatever else you have going in regards to bills and such, essentially that's going to fall back on yourself.
Okay, so what you're saying is the medical side would still be covered?
Mm-hmm.
The catastrophic is a supplemental that you can opt and pay for.
For a payout. Your
You
catastrophic.
get the cash
Yes,
payout
ma'am.
in addition to the medical side that they will actually take care of the medical bills.
Yes.
Aside from that.
Regardless, your medical expenses will be covered as long as you meet the $3,000 max. So you pay the deductible, 100% of that claim is paid. So if a person has a heart attack or a stroke, a heart attack is about $890,000. You pay the $3,000, 100% of that is paid.
Is that taxable?
If you are a business owner, right? So if you're an independent contractor, 1099, you absolutely can write that off. Now, you can't get any subsidies on this. This is private coverage that we're talking about.
Right.
With Obamacare, that's where you get the subsidies and all the different offers in regards to that, based on income. Yeah. I know you said questions at the end.
No, that's fine.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Okay. Also, I had noted, just so we all understand, regardless of what is offered in regards to services, all of the options are customizable. So what works for her may not work for you, etc. So if you wanted to make adjustments to your policy, all that you would need to do with me is, hey, that's really not that important to me. For example, dental and vision. If you don't wear glasses and your mouth is perfectly fine, you don't need to include dental and vision. We can remove that. If you didn't want to add an additional life insurance option, which is a supplemental option, which is not really life insurance, but it's more of a final expense type of option where that would pay out up to $90,000 as well, aside of that catastrophic coverage. You don't have to include that. There's an accident protector as another supplement that can be added on. And with accident protector, what that means is if you have a situation, let's say you get in a car accident and you break a leg and you're out of work for 6 months, having that supplement on your policy will pay you $1,500 up to 12 months. So you can still get your service from the hospital or whatever. You'll receive a check for $1,500 for up to 12 months up until you're ready to go back to work. Okay, it's a ton of different ways to assist with it. But again, if it's anything that you guys need in regards to healthcare, you can definitely contact me. I am going to give you all my phone number. That number is 305 587 5971. My name again is Jay Porter, Porter. My website is healthguardpro.co. If you happen to visit my website, you can book a call with me. I have my calendar already set, so if you go onto the website, you can select the time. You'll see my schedule. Pick the time slot, whether you want to talk for 15 minutes or 45 minutes. Select that spot. It'll go to my calendar. I get the alert. I will personally be calling you. Yes. Which one? Website is healthguardpro.co. Not com. .co. Yes, ma'am. 305-587-5971. And that is my real cell phone. It's not a voice over IP number. That is my cell number. My mom calls me on the same line. Let's see here. Okay. For the most part, that's essentially everything in regards to my services and what it is that I do on the health side in a nutshell. You have another question?
If you have health insurance ready, you know how they have like Aflac, the supplemental. Do you sell that, like supplement, like for hospitals and stuff like
Yeah.
that? So you can do that too, like if I have United already.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we can add supplemental to whatever policy that you have. That would come through like the marketplace side, but regardless, whatever it is that you need, we can assist with.
Okay.
Absolutely. Anybody else? No? Well, I appreciate you all time. No questions. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That's great information. Yes, so I'm going to introduce our next speaker, but I just wanted to say another thing. How many of us have life insurance? How many people have life insurance over $10,000? Good. Okay, good. Because sometimes we have people who have life insurance for $10,000. That's not enough. It's not enough to get. Yeah, it's not enough in this time to get. Like I just told you, the graveside alone, you're looking at $8,000. So you want to make sure that you sometimes can be overinsured, but never overinsured. So if you would like to pair your life insurance with a pre-need policy, you can come see us. Okay, no problem, because that'll be directly to what you want. So the purpose of pre-planning is the direct services you want, because even with the life insurance, your beneficiary, and hopefully your beneficiary is over the age of 18. That's another thing that we encounter a lot. We put the person in charge of the funds, a 4-year-old. And we think, yes, you want to leave something for your child. You're trying to do something. But do understand the 4-year-old cannot sign the forms to get the funeral paid for. And then the family is scrambling. We just had that. So we have to make sure that we're thinking about, hey, you have a person that you're going to designate over 18 because we don't know if you pass away by accident before, in an accident or anything like that, God forbid, but this is what would come up. Okay, and another thing about insurance, we get a lot of people who come in and they say we have an insurance policy and it's accidental. And they did not pass in an accident. So that's an easy insurance to get. And then when they bring it to us, we have to deny it very fast because we can't do anything, okay? And also you want to make sure, once you have a policy, it's always a 2-year contestability phase, okay? So if you get the policy today, God forbid something happens to you tomorrow, next week, it's going to go under a contestability process. And like we said, they don't like to pay out. So you want to make sure that you continue to pay the policy, you don't make it lapse. That's very important. And I also gave you guys a USB in here. This gray box is a USB. A good tool to do is to make sure that you write up all your important information and put it on here and give it to someone that you trust in the event that something happens, your passcodes, everything that you need to be able to, they would need to be able to find their way would be on this, okay? So the next person I'm going to introduce, It's wood. Okay, it's a wooden one, guys. Some people have wood, some people have the other one. If you want a wood, we can upgrade you. Okay? Who doesn't have the wood? And it's really cute too. Do you guys have the wood one? If not, oh no, okay, we're gonna upgrade you guys with the wood one because the wood one's the better one. Okay? Oh yeah. Well, thanks, Peter Gay, for showing that we have to upgrade. Yes, no, so don't worry, Javaris, we're gonna get some wood ones because those are the real fancy ones that I was trying to hold back. But I'm joking. The next person I'm going to introduce is our financial advisor, Sandra McCoy. She's going to elaborate on all things financially that can help you. She's the best person in our life that we heavily rely on for all of our financial decisions. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Bell. I have a church voice, so I don't think I need a mic, right? I'm kind of like Jay. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Mr. and Mrs. Bell, just great advocates of the community, and putting on this kind of information, informative session is so, so needed. So kudos. As Mrs. Bell said, my name is Sandra McCoy. I have been in the financial industry for over 30 years. I know a few people here. 29 and a half years I worked at SunTrust and SunTrust Investments, 2.5 years. Yes, Truist now. I don't know about Truist, but 2.5 years I worked at Citibank, personal wealth management. And after a trip back from France, I walked into the office at Citibank, and my boss told me I couldn't work with anybody that didn't have assets under $250,000 or less. And I'm like, uh-oh. Lauderdale Lakes has been my stomping ground. That's where I started as a banker, and a lot of my clientele didn't have that. And I said, you know what? I have good friends, and they were pushing me. And Mr. Bell said, you need to go independent. So guess what? The past 4 years, I have been an independent financial advisor under Kovac, and the best decision I've ever made. I am CRC designated, meaning that I'm a certified retirement counselor. I'm also a Series 7 licensed, Series 63, life, health, and annuity, but I'm going to leave health to you because that's another ball of wax that I really don't deal with. But the planning process, so we need to connect, right? Network, right? So I have a limited time, so I'm just going to try to do just an overarching. Financial planning includes consulting and solution implementation that entails cash flow. So we look at your cash flow. We look at if you have any savings. We look at your debt, what your expenses are, investments, insurance, and other financial life elements. That could include your children if you have children. We do college planning if you want to save for a home, whatever your goals are, right? So we sit with you and we go through pretty much a profile for the client. As a client, you really want to make sure that you have your money in 3 buckets. I like the 3-bucket approach. So you want to have short term, medium term, and long term. I know a lot of people like that money in that short term because they can see it, touch it, feel it, right? Access, quick access, but how much do you get on quick access cash? Right now, interest rates have come up a little bit, but trending for the past couple of years, I still have clients that come in with statements that are making 0.01% on $100,000 or $10,000. So you definitely want to get with a financial planner and just have them look at that. So your short-term bucket, you're looking at monies that's sitting in an account that 3 to 6 months, right? The car goes broke and you need to fix it. The roof starts leaking and you need to repair that. That should be your short-term asset. Then moderate is your middle term, which will span anywhere between 1 to 2 years. So a little bit longer term. And then you have your long term where you're looking at least 3 to anywhere between 3 to 10 years. Your savings account, as I said, or your CD, your money market, those are FDIC insured. And a lot of people said, my money gotta be insured, right? There are different levels of insurance. So your bank accounts, your CDs, your savings, your money market, those will have federal depository insurance coverage over those. But there are more. CDs, again, only pay you a limited amount of money. CDs, certificate of deposit, right? A fixed term for a fixed rate. Once it matures, then you got to reinvest it again. You're paying taxes on that interest that you earn, even if you don't use that interest. Savings account, again, as I said, it's accessible, but it doesn't pay you any much interest. So we want to look at other vehicles. How many people here stocks, bonds? Anybody invested in stocks, bonds, mutual funds? Do you understand them? Understand how they work? Yeah? You sure you understand how they work? You do? That's great. Okay. We have a lot of people, especially in our community, that shies away from investments, again, because they say it's not insured. Remember that any brokerage firm that you are investing with, those brokerage firms are invested or are insured up to $800,000. So that gives you even more coverage than an FDIC insurance. It also all depends on how your account is titled. Mrs. Bell mentioned earlier that we have accounts that clients will come in and they'll put a minor on that account. Do you have an attorney here today? Yes. Okay, good. You'll probably talk about titling, right? So it's so important, again, to make sure that those titles are right. Is it joint tenants with rights of survivorship? Is it joint tenants in common? Again, don't put a minor on an account because they can't access it. But stocks, pretty much, I tell clients, why don't you participate with stocks and mutual funds? Because there are other avenues other than the traditional bank products. You are using these companies every day, pretty much, right? So participate in the profit, participate in those dividends, the long-term growth. I often use as an example a lot of the companies, and they're staple companies even right here, right? Walmart. We're there pretty much probably once a week or once a month, okay? Disney, they take the children to Disney. They love to go to McDonald's, right? Your refrigerator in your home is probably a GE refrigerator. Your car that you drive, these are all companies that you can invest in, either buying the single stock or having a mutual fund. Mutual fund, pretty much, I equate it to a cake. You have the whole cake. You have all the ingredients in the cake. You've got the sugar, the flour, the egg, right? And pretty much what a mutual fund is, it's one pie, but you have all the different companies in it, the Walmart, the Home Depot, the General Electric. Tell me some companies. Microsoft, the Apple phones, you use the Apple, right? The Coach purses, the Louis Vuitton, Tesla. We're on Facebook every day. Why not participate in owning a portion of this? So you have the cake has all these ingredients in it, and you're buying a slice of the cake, and your slice has every single one of these companies in it. Company goes up, companies go down. We do have to tell you that mutual funds and stocks, again, they're not FDIC insured, but if that brokerage firm goes out of business, you do have coverage there. They are going to fluctuate, and that's where your long-term money comes in. So revisiting back the bucket idea, you've got short-term, quick access, little interest, right? Your long-term bucket, your third bucket, you've got more investments, more investable assets in there. The power of investing, I ran some numbers because sometimes numbers motivate us, but just to tell you, if you do systematic investing, you build up a nest egg, again, that can fund a pre-service need for a funeral or a loved one. An initial deposit of $1,000, if you began today or you began 10 years ago and you invested that and you made a 12% return and decided only to add $200 a month. So now listen, that's $1,000, a 10-year term. You're putting $200 every month in it. Your future value of that $1,000 over a 10-year return is $50,684. Okay, that's just $1,000. Let's run by some other numbers. If that same monies that you put in returned 15%, $200 monthly, every single month for 10 years, you bump up that growth with a 15% return of $60,000. A lot of people want to be millionaires, and millionaires today is not even a lot of money. But just to give you an example, 25 years, either in the future or 25 years ago, if you decided to stack away $20,000 and made a conscious, systematic investment of putting $500 every month in that investment, and it returned 12% consistently, you would have $1,236,004.89. That's the power of compounding. I do have to tell you that past performance is not indicative of future returns. So yes, the market goes up, market goes down, but that's why you work with a financial advisor, because they can take you through the ups and the downs, right? Because we're always going to have that. But in the long run, you will see the benefit of the market working in your favor if you have the patience. I'm not going to touch on retirement planning, but just know that we are here to service you. We're here to meet with you if you'd like. I do have business cards with me. I'll hand those out. They're still a thing. I go to these conferences and they give you electronic business cards, but it's so important to plan for a future, for families. Right now we may be in the go-go years, but we also have the slow-go years, right? And there's a point where there's going to be the no-go years. So we plan now, and the people who plan are usually the ones that end up being more successful over time. So again, we meet with you. We go over what your goals are, what your plans are, whether you're working now, planning for retirement. I am available to meet with you. Any questions for me, or we'll just leave them till the end? Good? My phone number, 954-532-3778. And I have business cards as well. Thank you.
That's good. Very good. So you definitely want to give her a call, and she can go through all the different options for you, because she's absolutely amazing. Sometimes in the meetings, all I hear is, oh, I don't really, but all I know is it looks good at the end, so she's good. Okay, our next guest is my funeral home mom. This is Miss Lucie Thomas. She has been with us forever. Love her dearly. And she is going to talk to us about veteran affairs. And this is so important. You might know a veteran and you might not know all the things that comes with a veteran and all the services offered. And she is a pro at it. And one thing I wanted to mention that I was thinking about when I heard bank accounts, when you have a bank account, you want to make sure you have a beneficiary
Absolutely.
on the bank account, not a child either. But it's so important because for a person to have access to their accounts to pay for services, they're going to need to be the beneficiary on that account, correct? Okay, perfect.
Hello, everyone. This is a subject that's near and dear to my heart because so many times and so often our veterans are overlooked. Do we have any veterans in the house? Do you know a veteran? You do know. And if you don't, some chances are you are going to meet a veteran before you leave this earth. And there's a new thing now with veterans. Veterans can now pre-plan their burials. They weren't able to do that in the past, but now they can pre-plan their burials. And one of the most important documents any military person can have is a DD-214. Now, if you're not military, that may sound Greek to you, but a DD-214 is your discharge record. It lists the time you enlisted in the Army. It has your birth date, your social security number, your blood type on some of the old ones. When a lot of young men went in the Army, their blood types were listed on their DD-214s. So if you know of a veteran or know a veteran, encourage them, if they do not have a DD-214, to apply for one. And you can do that by going to va.gov. In the search engine, you put DD-214. Now, chances are they're going to have to send to the National Archives either in Washington, D.C. or St. Louis, Missouri. And they're going to tell you that the record was destroyed in a fire. Not so. It's just government tape. Yes, some records were destroyed, but most of the records are available and they're yours for the asking. So please remember that. It is so important. Now, if you are a veteran and you were honorably discharged from the military, then you are in good standing with the VA, and you can be buried in any national cemetery in the United States and its territories without any problem. The only two places that will give you a hassle for burial is Arlington and the Army National Cemetery. You have to qualify to be buried in Arlington. And I have an uncle that is buried in Arlington, so I think that is a great feat. So, as Mrs. Bell said, pre-need means arranging for your burial before time. You will simply take your DD-214, pick up the telephone, and call the National Scheduling Office. The National Scheduling Office will prove that you were in, they will proof your DD-214 and your military record. Once they've done that, they will give you a statement letter saying that you are now eligible to be buried in a military cemetery. I helped a gentleman once arrange his burial. He lived here in Florida, but he wanted to be buried in Las Vegas. And so we were able to prove his eligibility. I contacted the National Cemetery in Las Vegas, sent his paperwork over, so whenever and wherever he is, when he passes away, that spot has been set aside for him. So, your eligibility is most important. Now, I mentioned honorably discharged. There are also other types of discharges. Less than honorable, meaning something happened, you weren't a good boy or girl, and you got in a little trouble, but you didn't hurt anybody. Less than honorable, they can work with. Dishonorable, forget it. That means you have committed an offense, you are a sex offender, or you've committed a felony, and they're not even going to talk to you. So remember, honorably discharged veterans can be buried in the National Cemetery, and you can pre-arrange your funeral. Now, there are also some other benefits that come along with the veterans' benefits. Most people, when they come in the funeral home and they sit before me and we're planning a funeral, they really absolutely think that Social Security is going to pay for the funeral. And they are banking on that until I tell them, I am so sorry, but you get $255 if you are the spouse or a dependent disabled child. So Social Security is not going to pay for your funeral. However, if you are a veteran, not only will you get a free grave space, they will also pay back some of the expenses that your family put out. Say, for instance, you die here in Florida, but you want to be buried in South Carolina at Florence. They will pay to transport your body from here to Florence, South Carolina, to the National Cemetery. Say, for instance, your cousin is a veteran and he died, he has no children, they have no money, and you put out the money. They will reimburse you. They will pay, well, you know, it's graduated, but you'll get most of your money back. And most people don't know that, so they don't pursue that little tidbit there. So all of this information is located at va.gov. Veterans today, there's truckloads of benefits from VA state veteran nursing homes, state veterans hospital. I myself benefit from the VA. My husband was a Vietnam veteran. He has 100% service-connected disability. And with that, I have 100% medical, burial, spousal pensions should he pass away. All of that will be mine. I will take his spot as the veteran. So these are things that you should know. I can't go to commercial because it's a clinic. But say, you know, I want to go down to Miami to the big VA hospital, Bruce Carter. They're going to treat me just like they treat the veterans. Yes.
So if your spouse was in the military, do they have to have the complete 20 years? Because my husband, former Marine, he didn't complete 20 years.
You don't have to.
Okay, so even if you didn't complete 20 years, you still get some form of benefit?
Yes.
Okay.
So you simply need to investigate, because there are benefits for those. And say you look very young, so I'm assuming he was either in the Gulf or he spent some time in Iraq or Afghanistan or, okay. And there are special benefits for those, do they call them, it's either blue water or brown water. There were lots of tar pits where they burnt tires and all of this stuff, and the veterans, the soldiers were there. So now there's a whole collection of benefits for those people that served in areas where they had those burn pits. They call them burn pits. So certainly the Marines were a part of that. So you want to look into that. And also, some Marines qualify for the brown water. Now, brown water is, you know, some of them, like the Navy, a lot of guys went to the Persian Gulf, but they never left the ship. So, you know, there's all that. But it is certainly worth looking into. You tell him to go out on Commercial Boulevard near the Faith Center. They share the same lot. And once you go through the door, you say hello to the guy at the desk. You walk in and go immediately to your right. That's where you'll find the social workers. There are 2 offices there.
So do I have to
He has to go. You can go with him. You can go with him. And then once you do that, your name will be listed beside. With this burial situation, if he was honorably discharged, when he reserves his space, your space is also reserved. Now, you don't have to elect to be buried in any military cemetery. They also have benefits for non-military cemeteries, like, for instance, although Sunset has no grave spaces, they do have a veteran section, or it's probably filled, but the VA will pay for a headstone or a marker, and sometimes they pay for the grave space in a non-military cemetery. So you just have to ask the question. Trust me, they ain't volunteering nothing. They ain't volunteering nothing. And I know personally because my cousin, he was a Vietnam veteran. He suffered a stroke a year ago. And we went through all of this stuff. And finally, somebody told me there was a VA state veterans nursing home. So I went down, checked it out, found out that it was a really nice place, really good. And he's service connected. The lady said on the phone they had no beds. I said, okay, no beds. But I called back the social worker, and the social worker said, what do you mean no beds? He's service connected. You go back down there and you tell them he is service connected 70%. That's the key. 70% sets the ball rolling. I went back, the same lady that told me there were no beds finally said, oh. She says, oh, we have to take him. She said, and you know how nursing homes work. If it's a private nursing home, you can't have but $2,000. You got to qualify for Medicaid. All that stuff that was driving me crazy. Nothing. I do not have to surrender financial records. He doesn't have to sell his car, his condo. He don't have to move his money out of the bank. They don't ask him any questions. Why? Because he's service connected. His disability is service connected. Now, there's a whole range from Agent Orange to unemployability of disability. So if you know anybody, please, I beg you, make the phone call for them. Share this information with them. It's easy. You can go to a VFW. If you know anybody in the VFW, they have counselors in the VFW that will sit with you, help you with the paperwork, file the paperwork on the computer. You may never even have to go out there until you go sign for your check, because they got a lot of money. So please take advantage of all of the VA benefits. And I know we don't have any veterans here, and I don't want to belabor, but I hope that some of this information has been very beneficial for you, and you will share it. If nothing more than one person from this meeting can come back and say, we did it. I met a couple, we buried her grandmother, I think, a few months back. They were from Alabama. Her husband was a veteran, and he was fighting in Alabama to get his disability. I said, forget Alabama. Go out to commercial. I had to bring 3 veterans from South Carolina to Florida to get their benefits, because states, they're very special. They still, although they were entitled to it, they didn't give it to them. But the minute we got in Florida, things changed. So please share that information. Are there any questions? I don't want to take up all the time talking about veterans because we don't really have any here, but I love veterans. I will do anything. They don't even have to be homeless. They have whole communities but the reason they're on the corner is because they don't want to follow the rules. They don't want to follow the rules. They don't want to stop drinking. They don't want to be in by 8. They can have a house, an apartment, a room. Those of you that are looking to supplement your incomes, they have VA foster homes. $2,800 per veteran that can bathe himself, feed himself, clothe himself. They just want him in a family type environment. A VA foster home. Check it out, va.gov. So if you're looking, if you have a spare room, a whole whatever, and you want to bring them in, you have to make sure they keep their appointments, and if they don't come with transportation, you have to provide it. So transportation is available. That's just something, if you want to look. Yes, sir.
Quick question in regards to the foster home. They need to be supervised as well?
They need to be in, not necessarily supervised, because they don't give you the ones that are medically needed or the ones that are not ambulatory. They don't do that. These men are just old, some are women, and they don't want to be alone. So you would provide them food, make sure they're clean, make sure they get to their doctor's appointment. And, they just tag along. You're going to Walmart, they just go right with you. So I wouldn't really say it's supervision that they need. It's more, right. But it's something that we don't know about, but it is out there. And those of you that are caring for veterans, there is also a caregiver supplement. But in that instance, the veteran must be same thing. Veteran must be in the house with you, and they will pay you to be the caregiver. I know that's not why we're here, but anyway. I'm sorry, really. Are there any other questions? Any other questions? But they're doing it out there, people. They are doing it. So why not some of us do it? It's not illegal, and they're going to take you through the 9 yards, but it's there. Thank you.
Awesome information. Miss Lucie, you have room for 3 of my kids, so we can open up for veterans. I'm serious. So the last speaker of the evening is someone who is so important to the funeral industry, I think, period. He is Attorney Patterson, and he spoke before at one of our conferences, and he did so amazing. We invited him back. His wife really runs the show. She's absolutely phenomenal. I've been working with her for a couple weeks now, right? Well, it feels like a couple weeks. But he's going to talk about probate, wills, and trust, which is very important, and he'll elaborate. Give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to invite you all just to stand, just for a little bit. Everyone, stand. No. No, okay, everyone's standing. Okay, go ahead and sit, if you don't mind. Now, Mr. Bell and Mrs. Bell indicated that if anyone falls asleep during my presentation, they won't invite me back. So I had to make sure that everyone will be awake for my entire presentation. And if you could, go ahead and lock the doors so that no one can leave. No, folks. 2 things in life are certain. One of them we deal with every year when we file our taxes. The second one, we kind of kick the can down the road, and we try not to deal with it. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the second one, because that's the one you need to make sure, even though it's not dealt with on a yearly basis, it's not dealt with on a regular basis, you want to make sure you deal with it, because if not, it causes issues. Now, we have the what, why, where, how, and when. We are looking at probate avoidance. Now, what's probate? No, probate basically is the process where a court determines what happens to someone's assets when they pass away. So the court just decides. Now, a common misconception for folks is that, well, hey, I have a will. So because I have a will, it doesn't have to be probated. In my will, it says this goes to this person, this goes to that person. But a will always, always, always has to be probated. Meaning, you have to hire an attorney. The attorney goes to court, goes through the probate process so that the court determines this will is authentic, this will is accurate, and all the assets that are left in the will goes to the beneficiaries or heirs that are in the will. Now, we want to make sure that that there are probate avoidance techniques. So anything that will avoid probate. You always want to avoid using a will. Now, in terms of avoiding using a will, what are the things? What are the methods? What are the avenues that you can use? No, we heard a few different people speak about beneficiaries. Now, it's very important, not just for your bank accounts, but any investment accounts, any other accounts that you may have that has money in there, to go ahead and put a beneficiary on those accounts. Now, once again, we don't want to put minors, because if you put minors, that will be issues, that will be problems if you were to pass away before that minor becomes at least 18. So every single investment account, once again, you want to make sure you have beneficiaries listed on those accounts. Now, typically with an account, if you list a beneficiary, like you have 3 children, 3 folks, typically an account, the money is divided equally between the folks that you that you list as beneficiaries. So, you know, sometimes, let's say Mrs. Bell adds me to her account, her bank account, and it has lots more money than mine. So of course I'd like to go on her account. So she adds me to her account, and it has a lot of money in there. I am now an owner, 100%, and I could go and take all of the money that's in her account because it's also mine. She added me. As opposed to, she adds me as a beneficiary. Now, only if she were to pass away, then only in that case would the funds come to me. No, in real estate, one of the biggest assets that we have is our home. And it's important that you look after your home in the event of your passing. Now, there's an avenue with real estate that's very similar to a bank account that has a beneficiary. Meaning that if you pass away, your asset, your home, goes to your beneficiary. Now, many people sometimes they'll hear about a quitclaim deed. You can add someone to title, and of course, as a result, if you pass away, it goes to your beneficiary, whoever you added to title. Now, that's definitely one avenue, but sometimes it's not the best avenue. Why? Because I add my daughter as a beneficiary. So we now both own the property. And I live for a long time. I plan to live for a long time. And my daughter is now in my home. And what happens is that my daughter, she doesn't pay her credit card bills. So she gets sued by Visa. Visa gets a judgment against her. That now becomes a lien on my property. Now also, my daughter, hey, she went out one night, she met someone. She fell in love. She got married. Best thing ever. But then 2 years later, she's getting a divorce. No, I added my daughter to my property. She never had anything to do with it. Guess what? All of a sudden, she's getting divorced. That's a potential asset that her husband can go after. So no, he's going after my house. So now a different way of going about it, once again, is a very similar method to a beneficiary account. It's called an enhanced life estate deed. It's commonly known also as a ladybird deed, where only if you were to pass away, then the property goes to the heir or beneficiary. But within your lifetime, even though you do the deed right now, next week, next month, next year, anytime in the future, you can do anything you want with your property. So you could sell it, you could take out a mortgage, you could do anything without your heir being involved. And importantly, if you sell it, you'd keep all the funds. None of it goes, oh yeah, you want to go to them, but not until you pass away. So everything goes to you within your lifetime. Only if you were to pass away, just like a beneficiary account, then and only then does it go to your heir. Now also there's another probate avoidance technique, which is a trust, a revocable trust, which many people have heard about, and of course it's always a good option in terms of probate avoidance. Now the ladybird deed is probably the cheapest. Well, actually, let me back up, because my wife said not to use the word cheap. You must always say inexpensive. That's the word you, okay, or affordable. So the trust is much more expensive than a ladybird deed. A ladybird deed probably costs like $400 or $500. A trust, you're looking at maybe about $2,000 or so. But a trust, you can do a whole lot more with a trust than with a ladybird deed. So it allows you to be creative, do a whole lot of things that the deed doesn't allow. A trust is a revocable trust is a probate avoidance avenue. It is not an avenue to avoid liability. So many times people say, okay, let me go ahead and put in a trust because someone's suing me and they're coming after me, and I'll go ahead and put in a revocable trust so that they can't get my assets. Now, many people who don't understand it might look at it and say, okay, that's a good avenue. It's typically not, but once again, you look at a revocable trust as to avoid probate as opposed to anything else. Now, everyone needs a will. Now, you're probably thinking this attorney's probably a little bit half crazy, because he just told me that, well, hey, you want to avoid a will. But you want to avoid a will, but a will is like a safety net. It's like a seatbelt. Every time you get in your car, you put your seatbelt on. You never want to use your seatbelt, but if you have to use it, it's there. So you can plan your estate in terms of estate planning. You have your real estate with a ladybird deed or in a trust. You have beneficiaries on all your accounts. Why do I need a will? Because things happen, life happens. So after you get your deed done, your trust done, it's possible that someone you know might pass away, and they leave you some money, or they leave you a house. And all of a sudden, you have that. Those are assets of yours. But before you get a chance to put them in the trust, or to go ahead and prepare a ladybird deed, you pass away. What happens? That property is not in the safety net. The will protect so that those assets that you obtained after and before you got the chance to plan for those assets will go ahead and go according to how you would like your assets to go, as opposed to the state of Florida deciding how those assets would be distributed. So a will is very important. Now, the why. Why do you want to make sure that you avoid probate? Couple things. Probate's expensive. It's expensive. On the cheap, an expensive end. On the inexpensive end, you can probably get probate done for maybe about $2,000, which is, I do a whole lot of real estate. And in terms of probate, we use different attorneys to do the probate end of it. And the attorneys who charge $200 for a probate, they probably take about 6 to 9 months to do something that should be done in about 2 months. typically a probate bill will be about $5,000 or so. We just had one that we paid today for a closing, which was $10,000. I've seen them as high as $20,000. So you want to avoid probate because of the cost. Now also the time, once again, it will take several months, 2 to 3 months to get probate done. And also it's a stressful time, an emotional time. Question?
As you're speaking of the probate and avoiding it, if you have a will,
Mm-hmm.
but you have distributed some of the items before the will is administered, how is that settled in the case of probate? Are you forced, if it's property, if you have a Lady Bird deed that's in effect,
Mm-hmm.
but you have a will that's out there per se, if the Lady Bird deed is already executed and so forth, how does that play out?
So a will just takes care of anything that's an asset when you pass away.
So
Now, if you have a bank account that has a benefit, if you have a bank account and it's just your name alone, if you pass away, it doesn't go to anyone, so it's an asset of your estate. It will go through a will. If you have a bank account that has a beneficiary, when you pass away, that money goes to your beneficiary. So it's not an asset of your estate, so it wouldn't be administered under a will. Same thing with real estate. If you have a Lady Bird deed, it has a beneficiary, it's not an asset of your estate, so it wouldn't be administered under a will, so you avoid the probate in terms of the real estate. Make sense? Yeah? Okay. Now, also, in terms of avoiding probate, one of the things that is not looked at a whole lot is in terms of preserving your family after you pass. It's a very emotional process in terms of when someone passes, as Mrs. Bell alluded to. Now, recently, my aunt passed, and her husband predeceased her, and her daughter had a stroke, her only daughter, so they weren't able to plan as maybe typically they would. So there are a bunch of family members who are actually planned the funeral. And it was interesting because family members were arguing about different things. I mean, maybe something as simple as, okay, what kind of food will be at the repast, to maybe something a little bit more substantial in terms of, well, should the funeral service be at the funeral home or be in a church? So it's important that you plan everything so that you preserve your family by avoiding the fights that typically may occur if you do not properly plan. No, the where and how. You want to make sure that you do this now. You don't keep kicking the can down the street. You don't keep kicking the can down the road. Tomorrow is not promised for any of us. So it's very important that you move forward with your planning. Of course, we have Mrs. Bell here. We have a whole lot of different professionals here who can make sure that you properly plan for passing on. And it's important, once again, that you do. Once again, my name is Chris Patterson. I'm an attorney. I've been doing this for about 25 years. And I just practice real estate and estate planning. And if you need any help with anything, you make sure you give me a call. I'll go ahead. I have my business cards here. We have a couple questions. Mind if I take questions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, now with the Lady Bird deed, is that for your primary as well as investment real estate?
Yes, you can use a Lady Bird deed for both your primary real estate and for any investment properties that you have. Mm-hmm.
Can you speak to healthcare directive as part of the estate plan?
Okay. Now, also, one of the things that's very important in terms of estate planning is in terms of maybe with older family members, or maybe everyone should have a power of attorney also. So now there are different forms of a power of attorney in terms of different things that they do. Now, there are generally 3 categories in terms of power of attorneys. So the first one is typically a durable power of attorney, which allows the person who you designate to take care of any business matters. So that's like bank accounts, financial accounts, real estate, any other business matter that you may have. Separate and apart from that is a healthcare power of attorney, which is always recommended in terms of giving someone permission to deal with healthcare matters for you. You're in the hospital, you're not able to make a decision, so the healthcare power of attorney. And separate and apart from that is a living will, which is a little bit more specific, where if you are on life support, then that person has the authority to continue life support on your behalf or to terminate life support. So power of attorney is once again very important also as a part of the entire estate planning schedule and situation that you go through. So I know you've been here for a while. Go ahead.
If you don't mind. Can you kind of give us just a rough estimate of like how much a will, POA, just.
Yeah,
maybe ballpark?
so let's start. A labor deed runs you like about $500. A trust will run you somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,000, $2,000 to maybe $2,500, depending on the creativity that's needed. A will is pretty inexpensive, relatively speaking, maybe from between $200 and $400. And the power of attorneys, a power of attorney, durable power of attorney is about $500. If you get a package with all of them included, it's $795.
What about the package with the trust, if you do the whole trust, estate planning, POA?
You're running about $3,000 to $3,500. Go ahead.
Do you register and certify your will? Is it a good idea to register and certify your will?
So typically, a will is a private document. You want to make sure that any beneficiaries probably are aware of where the will is. So you'll make a judgment call in terms of giving a will to a beneficiary. Another avenue is probably to put in a safety deposit box, and then you tell everyone, hey, if something happens to me, this is the key, and this is where you can get the information for the safety deposit box. Sometimes you want to be a little bit careful in terms of giving that information out beforehand because it may cause problems. Okay. So once again, go ahead.
Durable power of attorney, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
So durable power of attorney is, it gives someone permission to act on your behalf. Now, the durable part of it is that if for some reason you become incapacitated in some way, the person is still able to act on your behalf. So for elder family members, if they happen to get Alzheimer's, some kind of dementia, the person can still act on their behalf. And once again, for all financial matters, someone can act on your behalf.
And it ends?
No, very importantly, I actually paid her to ask all of these questions for me. So, no, very importantly, folks, a power of attorney, when someone who signs a power of attorney passes away, that power of attorney passes away with them. So sometimes folks might think, okay, I have a power of attorney, the person died, but I have a power of attorney. No, the power of attorney cannot be used after someone has passed away. Okay? No, so I understand a few folks here are hungry. Dinner's on the stove. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up. But once again, Mrs. Bell, thank you so much for inviting me. Guys, any help you need, please let us know. And or phone number. So lots of business cards. Phone number is 954 306 8420. 954 306 8420. And once again, guys, thank you so much. You'll have a very good night. Thank you, Marcel.
Okay, thank you, everybody. That was a very large amount of information that we all need. I definitely need it. I think all of our presenters did a great job. Let's give a round of applause for everyone who presented tonight. And if you don't mind, give a great round of applause for my wife, Makara Bell. She put this together. She was adamant of how she wanted it to go, and I'm so very proud of her. Marissa, her sister, did a great job helping out. And to all the staff, everyone who did the phone calls to make this night a success, and to yourselves, because we couldn't have done it without you, and it's for you. Okay, so thank you. I think we did a good job of covering a lot of ground tonight. I think we have a great place to start from for a lot of us, and we look forward to you all getting the business cards and the information from the presenters that you need, so that our goal is to strengthen our community one family at a time. The information that you received, you may be the catalyst or the bell ringer for your family to help everyone in your small community, which is your home or your section of your family. So that's very important, because the information has to be shared, and the stronger our community grows, the more educated our community becomes with financial wellness, with attorney and probate and trust, and we see it all. We see families come in from time to time. Mom or the parents or someone who passed away, they leave them a home. Taxes are too high in the home. To transfer into ownership, since it was no will or no deed left for them, is too high for the taxes, and to go through the process of probate, the attorneys and the fees begin to mount up. We see all of it. We see family members have life insurance. Person was in hospice for 2 or 3 months after having certain policies for 10 or 15 years. Policy lapse. They say they had a policy. They pulled the policy up. They found out that the policy had lapsed while they were down on their care. Now the funds are gone. And they say, Mr. Bell, that's illegal. They've paid all those years. But certain policies don't cover those. That's why it's very important to come out to nights like this, get information from some of the people we have here speaking, so that you'll know your options. Veterans. My dad is a veteran. My grandfather's a veteran. So those benefits are very important. They're very, very important. So I want to thank everyone for coming out. God bless you. Do you have any last words to say?
Thank you so much, everyone.
So thank you all. God bless everyone. Okay?
And we're gonna have some more chicken and fruits. Please have hot chicken. My Bible college said chill.
Say chill, but it's spicy.
Oh no! I want to be on the gate before that truck.